Back in 2009, Meet the Browns was a joyful sitcom filled with family chaos, laughter, and lighthearted moments. But behind the scenes, the cast lived completely different lives, marked by tearful divorces, debilitating illnesses, overwhelming debt, and unexpected deaths. Their real stories were far more dramatic than anything Tyler Perry ever wrote. Join us as we uncover their true journeys and honor the legacies they left behind. Callan as Daisy LaRue. Callan was born on January 9, 1936, in Texas. At 73 years old, she played Daisy LaRue in Meet the Browns, 2009, portraying a washed-up former B-movie star who stayed in character to avoid uncomfortable conversations. It was a role that blended comedy with quiet heartbreak, and Callan carried it with the weight of someone who had lived through real emotional storms. But behind that performance was a woman shaped by years of personal upheaval. Her first marriage to theater director James Borman fell apart in 1970 after a bitter fight over money, a battle that left her emotionally bruised and struggling to regain stability. When she later married film producer Tom Callan, she hoped for peace, yet the marriage ended quickly and painfully, forcing her to raise her 3 children, Jamie, Kelly, and Christy, on her own. As her private world unraveled, Hollywood's growing tendency to typecast her as the eccentric older woman deepened her isolation and fed a depression she rarely spoke about. Still, her determination pushed her forward. She took whatever work she could find, teaching acting, writing books, and accepting small roles, while trying to keep her family afloat. Gradually, major roles such as Mrs. Manicotti in The Honeymooners and Mabel Simmons in Knots Landing reminded casting directors of her dramatic strength. These successes helped her regain confidence, but they did not erase the scars left by years of struggle. By the time Tyler Perry offered her the role of Daisy LaRue, she had already fought through decades of quiet survival. Today, Callan is 89 years old and continues to work occasionally, most recently appearing in The Chosen. She spends much of her time writing and mentoring young actors, using her hard-won wisdom to guide them through the same industry that once wounded her. Her net worth, estimated at $2 million, comes from SAG pensions and small California real estate investments. Jennifer Lewis as Vera Brown. Jennifer Lewis was born on January 25, 1957, in Missouri. At 52 years old, she played Vera Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, bringing fiery energy and emotional depth to the role of Mr. Brown's wild, sharp-tongued sister. Her portrayal resonated deeply because it reflected a lifetime of real-world pain she had fought to overcome. Her private life was marked by turmoil from a young age. In 1980, she married musician Randy Jackson, hoping for stability, but his escalating addiction dragged their marriage into chaos and ended in a bitter divorce that left her emotionally exhausted. The absence of biological children intensified her loneliness, a void she carried silently for years. At the same time, she battled bipolar disorder, diagnosed at age 20, a condition that led to manic highs, hospitalizations, and a suicide attempt in 1985 after a devastating professional failure. Yet despite the turmoil, her talent refused to be dimmed. She rebuilt herself on stage with a Tony-winning performance in Dreamgirls and later earned multiple Emmy nominations for Blackish. Even so, hardship continued to strike. In 2015, she was deceived in a romance scam, and in 2022, she survived a terrifying fall from a hotel balcony in Serengeti, an accident that required 9 hours of surgery and days in intensive care. Through every blow, she turned trauma into purpose, sharing her story in her memoir, The Mother of Black Hollywood, and becoming a powerful voice for mental health awareness. Now, Jennifer Lewis is 68 years old and remains active in acting, public speaking, and advocacy. She is also raising her adopted daughter, Charmaine Lewis, with the fierce protectiveness of someone who knows the cost of surviving alone. Her net worth of approximately $6 million earned through best-selling books, Disney voiceover work, and decades of performances. David Mann as Leroy S. Brown. David Mann was born on August 7, 1966 in Fort Worth, Texas. At 43 years old, he played Leroy S. Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, becoming the loud, goofy, and big-hearted center of the series. His character's humor came naturally, but the truth behind that laughter was shaped by years of hardship he rarely spoke about publicly. Before Hollywood, life pushed him into battles far from the stage. Growing up poor in Dallas, he spent 10 years working as a mechanic just to survive. During that time, he married Tamela J. Mann in 1988, but financial pressure quickly consumed their young marriage. When David invested their savings into a local theater project that failed, the debt nearly broke them, leading to fights that escalated into a near divorce in 1995. As Tamela's music career began rising and David struggled to find stable work, resentment quietly built between them, especially when Tamela's touring schedule clashed with his acting ambitions. Yet their shared love for performance slowly became the bridge that kept their marriage intact. After Meet the Browns, David faced a new struggle. The industry began typecasting him strictly as the silly old man, limiting the roles he was offered. The frustration of being boxed into a single comedic identity weighed heavily on him. Instead of giving up, he rebuilt his confidence through stand-up tours, live shows, and Tyler Perry collaborations, drawing audiences who saw beyond the wig and loud suits. His earlier successes, especially Mr. Brown in Medea's Family Reunion, 2006, and the original Meet the Browns stage play, 2004, which earned him an NAACP Image Award. Now, David Mann is 59 years old and continues performing alongside his wife Tamela while managing their family-run entertainment projects. His estimated net worth of $5 million comes from touring, merchandise, and decades of steady work. Tamela Mann as Cora Simmons Brown. Tamela Mann was born on June 9, 1966, in Fort Worth, Texas. At 43 years old, she played Cora Simmons Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, bringing warmth, faith, and a fiery temper to the role of Mr. Brown's devoted daughter. Her character's strength mirrored the woman she became after years of fighting battles no audience ever saw. Her personal journey began with pain she carried into adulthood. Raised in a poor household, Tamela struggled with severe obesity, starting in her teenage years. When she married David Mann in 1988, her health quickly became a source of tension between them. David worried deeply as her weight intensified her depression, and arguments over lifestyle changes pushed their marriage to the edge of collapse. Years later, the pressure of balancing her rising gospel career with David's acting commitments created new conflicts, especially when she felt trapped in supporting roles within Tyler Perry's productions instead of pursuing her musical goals. Eventually, the stress took a toll on her body as well. By 2017, after decades of health complications, Tamela underwent stomach surgery and lost nearly 50 kilograms, but the recovery brought its own suffering, pain, complications, and long months away from music. Despite this, her voice remained her refuge. Roles such as Shug Avery in the Broadway tour of The Color Purple, 2005, and her Grammy-winning album One Way, 2017, became milestones in a career repeatedly interrupted by illness and emotional exhaustion. In 2025, Tamela Mann is 59 years old and continues recording, touring, and acting while dedicating significant time to health advocacy. Her estimated net worth of $19 million comes from her music label, best-selling albums, television work, and inspirational books. Tasha Smith as Tanya Ortiz. Tasha Smith was born on February 28, 1971, in Camden, New Jersey. At 38 years old, she played Tanya Ortiz in Meet the Browns, 2009, portraying the troubled, drug-addicted biological mother of Brianna and Joaquin. Her recurring antagonist role carried a raw edge that reflected the pain she knew too well in her own life. Her marriage to Keith Douglas quickly became the center of her deepest turmoil. After the wedding in 2010, she discovered a pattern of emotional abuse, manipulation, and infidelity that tore their relationship apart. By 2015, she pursued divorce while simultaneously supporting her twin sister Sidra, whom she had helped raise since childhood. The stress of the legal battle collided with the trauma of her past, leaving her emotionally fractured and financially strained. In the middle of that chaos, another blow arrived: a stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis in 2016. She underwent chemotherapy while finalizing her divorce, a period she later described as the darkest in her life. The illness forced her to step away from acting for 2 years, just as Hollywood began labeling her as too dramatic or too difficult, pushing her further into depression. Yet she fought her way back, leaning on her acclaimed performances as Angela in the Why Did I Get Married trilogy, and as Dr. Charlotte Peterson in Couples Retreat, to rebuild her reputation piece by piece. Today, Tasha Smith is 54 years old, fully recovered from cancer since 2018, and actively directing, acting, and coaching performers through her TSAW workshops. Her estimated net worth of $3 million comes largely from her acting coaching empire. Lamman Rucker as William Will Brown. Lamman Rucker was born on October 6, 1971, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At 37 years old, he played Dr. William Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, serving as the calm, grounded doctor who balanced the chaos surrounding Mr. Brown and the rest of the family. His performance carried a quiet authority shaped by years of personal struggle behind the scenes. Before fame reached him, his first marriage to Ingrid Rucker began crumbling under the weight of long filming schedules and constant travel. By 2008, the emotional distance between them widened into a split neither could repair. Hoping for a fresh start, he married Leah Thompson in 2012, but his rising visibility as a black leading man brought new forms of pressure, industry expectations, public scrutiny, and the unspoken demand to represent more than himself. These stresses created tension within the marriage and pushed him into a period of social withdrawal. While navigating those personal battles, his career took an unexpected hit during the 2007 to 2008 Hollywood strike. Work vanished overnight, and he came dangerously close to abandoning acting altogether to sell insurance just to keep bills paid. Yet the roles that defined him, Miles in All My Children and his later performance in The X's, which earned a Daytime Emmy nomination, helped revive his confidence and proved he still had a place in the industry. Now, Lamman Rucker is 54 years old and continues acting in television dramas while investing quietly in real estate, a path that has grown into an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. After years of emotional and professional upheaval, he has built a steadier life. Ri'chard as Derek Porter. Ri'chard was born on January 7, 1983 in Los Angeles, California. At 26 years old, he played Derek Porter in Meet the Browns, 2009, the mischievous frat boy neighbor who brought both trouble and charm to seasons 3 through 5. His youthful energy on screen sharply contrasted the turmoil unfolding in his life away from the cameras. His long-term relationship collapsed in 2014, ending a years-long partnership that had once felt like a refuge. Fame, however, strained everything. His girlfriend accused him of becoming unpredictable under public pressure, and the breakup left him unstable at a moment when he desperately needed grounding. As his drinking worsened in adulthood, he struggled to manage the pressure of a career that expected confidence while he was internally falling apart. Those struggles soon spilled into the public. He was arrested for DUI in 2013, a moment that cost him a major contract and severely damaged his reputation. 3 years later, in 2016, he faced an assault accusation that pushed him further into Hollywood's blacklist. Roles began disappearing, and offers that once came easily dried up, as studios viewed him as a liability. He leaned on past successes, like One-on-One and his breakout in House of Wax, to remind himself of the actor he used to be, but rebuilding after scandal proved far harder than rising to fame in the first place. In 2025, Robert Ri'chard is 42 years old and continues taking supporting roles while quietly rebuilding his life and sobriety. His estimated net worth of $400,000 comes from recent smaller projects and independent film work. Denise Boutte as Sasha Brown. Denise Boutte was born on January 19, 1982, in Maurice, Louisiana. At 26 years old, she played Sasha Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, the sharp, caring nurse who balanced Will Brown's chaos with grace and strength. Her professionalism on screen hid the emotional weight she carried in her real-life journey. Her marriage to Kevin Boutte, which began in 2003, faced unexpected strain after the birth of their son in 2016. Denise stepped away from acting to become a full-time mother, a choice that soon led to financial worry and tension at home. Kevin wanted stability, while Denise feared losing her career entirely, and the two often clashed over how much she should sacrifice. At the same time, she was still battling the emotional fallout from a failed cosmetic surgery in 2012 that had left her with painful complications and a period of deep depression. As years passed, the pressures tested their marriage. But therapy, communication, and a shared determination helped them rebuild the bond nearly destroyed by stress and fear. With time, Denise gradually returned to acting, leaning on past roles such as Nell in The Preacher's Son and her standout performance in The Soul Collector to re-establish herself. Now Denise Boutte is 42 years old and balancing acting with her growing fashion business ventures, which have become an important financial foundation for her family. Her estimated net worth of $3 million comes mostly from these business projects. Lisa Arrindell as Karen Jackson. Lisa Arrindell was born on March 24, 1969, in the Bronx, New York. At 40 years old, she played Karen Jackson in Meet the Browns, 2009, portraying the emotionally distant daughter of Colonel Jackson across more than 10 episodes. Her performance carried a quiet intensity that reflected both the character's guarded nature and the actress's real-life battles behind the scenes. Before stepping onto the sitcom set, Lisa had already built a solid marriage with Martin Spangers, whom she married in 2000. Together, they raised 2 children, but stability at home did not shield her from the professional storm that followed. After Meet the Browns, Hollywood began typecasting her into single mother roles, a label that restricted her opportunities and caused long stretches of unemployment. Those gaps filled her with anxiety for the future of her children, especially as she tried to maintain a career during the fear and uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the industry narrowed her options, Lisa faced the difficult task of rebuilding her confidence while searching for roles that valued her range. The pressure mounted, especially when she felt overshadowed by younger actresses and overlooked for complex characters. Still, she pushed forward, relying on her standout work as Tasha in Luke Cage and her earlier success in Daddy's Girls to prove she could thrive beyond narrow stereotypes. Teaching acting gradually became both a financial lifeline and an emotional refuge. In 2025, Lisa Arrindell is 56 years old and continues acting selectively while focusing heavily on coaching and mentoring new performers. Her estimated net worth of $1 million comes largely from her acting workshops and teaching work. Maurice G. Smith as Reggie Brooks. Maurice G. Smith was born on July 22, 1970, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At 35 years old, he played Reggie Brooks in Meet the Browns, 2009, the overweight, soft-spoken boyfriend of Cora who still lived with his mother. His gentle, comedic style made the character endearing, even as Maurice himself was facing hardships far less humorous. Years before joining the cast, he married Elena Smith in 2005, a union that quickly encountered unexpected challenges. A chronic knee injury worsened over time until it required surgery, forcing Maurice into long stretches of recovery at home. Elena became his primary caregiver, and while her devotion strengthened their partnership, the physical limitations placed strain on both their finances and their emotional well-being. Maurice struggled with guilt as she carried more of the household burden, while he found himself unable to audition for physically demanding roles. As his mobility decreased, so did his career momentum. Hollywood's relentless competition made it difficult for him to regain the visibility he once had, even after standout appearances such as Lance in The Best Man Holiday and guest spots on The Walking Dead. The injury restricted him from action-heavy roles, and casting directors often passed him over in favor of actors who could work without physical limitations. Slowly, his career shifted toward smaller roles and voice work, allowing him to remain in the industry while managing chronic joint pain. Today, Maurice G. Smith is 51 years old and continues working steadily, though at a slower pace, while prioritizing his long-term health. His estimated net worth of $500,000 comes from recent supporting roles and small production projects. Logan Browning as Brianna Janae Ortiz Brown. Logan Browning was born on June 9, 1989 in Atlanta, Georgia. At 19 years old, she played Brianna Ortiz Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, stepping into the role of a rebellious foster teenager whose guarded exterior masked deep hurt. Joining the series in Season 2, she quickly became one of its emotional anchors. Away from the sitcom set, Logan's life moved through quieter but still meaningful transitions. She married a fellow actor in her mid-20s, only for the relationship to unravel in 2018 after a brief and painful divorce. The split left her confronting questions about identity, stability, and her place in an industry that often praised her talent but scrutinized her appearance. She publicly acknowledged the pressure she faced within Hollywood's complex conversations about colorism, feeding into bouts of social anxiety and self-doubt. Those struggles also shaped the direction of her work. As she pushed forward, Logan turned increasingly toward activism, using her voice to discuss racial equity and representation. Her breakout role as Samantha White in Dear White People, 2017 to 2021, pushed her into the cultural spotlight, earning her a Teen Choice Award and solidifying her place as a performer who embraced storytelling with social weight. In 2025, Logan Browning is 35 years old and continues acting while dedicating more time to advocacy, writing, and mentoring young Black actresses. Her estimated net worth of $1 million comes largely from her Netflix work and ongoing activism partnerships. Wanita Jennings as Edna Barnes. Wanita Jennings was born on September 12, 1952, in Dallas, Texas. At 57 years old, she played Edna Barnes in Meet the Browns, 2009, embodying the widowed, flirtatious, music-loving woman who often found herself the target of Mr. Brown's jokes. Her comedic ease masked a history marked by resilience and pain. Her marriage to Ronald Dorsey in 1980 began with hope, but unfolded into years of emotional strain. Allegations of infidelity and domestic conflict steadily eroded their relationship until their divorce in 1995, leaving Wanita to raise their two children alone. At the same time, she continued fighting the weight of racial discrimination in Hollywood. Decades of being typecast into stereotypical roles during the 1970s and 1980s, which drained her emotionally and nearly ended her career after a major project failed. Even after Meet the Browns, new challenges emerged. As she grew older, roles became harder to secure, and she endured long periods without work, despite a career filled with acclaimed performances. Her standout roles, Anne in American Gothic and Sheila in Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married?, which earned her an NAACP Image Award, proved her talent, yet Hollywood's ageism continued to push her to the margins. Today, Wanita Jennings is 73 years old, still acting occasionally while focusing on voice work and small guest roles that allow her to manage her health. Her net worth of about $1 million comes from decades of television work and small advertising contracts. Terri J. Vaughn as Renee. Terri Juanita. Vaughn was born on October 16, 1969, in San Francisco, California. At 40 years old, she joined Meet the Browns, 2009, as Renee, the loud, half-ghetto, half-chaotic nurse who went from a Season 3 recurring presence to a main cast member in Season 4. Beneath the jokes and swagger, she brought an energy that reshaped the series' rhythm. Behind the camera, however, Terri's life carried far more weight than Renee ever let on. Her marriage to Karen O'Reilly, which began in 1999, was loving but stretched thin as they navigated the challenges of raising 3 children, especially their oldest son, who was born deaf. Balancing speech therapy appointments with long filming days drained her emotionally, and the pressure of dividing responsibilities sparked arguments between her and Karen about who was carrying more of the load. At the same time, she turned down several major roles to remain physically present for her children. Those sacrifices also created new hurdles in her career. As the bills increased and auditions slowed, Terri found herself dangerously close to bankruptcy in 2012, a moment she later described as the lowest point in her professional life. Yet it was also the turning point that pushed her into producing, a space where risk and opportunity collided. Her advocacy for the deaf community grew during this time, further slowing her acting momentum but deepening her commitment to representation and accessibility. The tension between her purpose and her profession became a daily battle, but she refused to give up either one. In 2025, Terri J. Vaughn is 56 years old and steadily rebuilding her career through directing, producing, and selected acting roles that allow her to stay close to her family. She continues to speak publicly about parenting a deaf child, turning her challenges into a platform that empowers others and gives purpose to every hardship she survived. Her estimated net worth of $4 million comes primarily from her independent production work. Gunnar Washington as Joaquin Ortiz. Gunnar Washington was born on July 4, 1997, in Los Angeles, California. At just 11 years old, he played Joaquin Ortiz Brown in Meet the Browns, 2009, appearing as the shy, soft-spoken younger brother whose quiet innocence balanced the chaos around him. From the very first season, he remained a main cast member through the entire run, growing up on screen before millions of viewers. As the series ended, Gunnar faced the difficult transition that many child actors encounter. Instead of continuing in front of the camera, he stepped back to focus on school, sensing the early signs of burnout. That decision collided with a painful moment in his personal life, his parents' divorce in 2015. The breakup fractured his sense of stability, leaving him feeling caught between households and unsure of who he was outside of Hollywood. The emotional weight of the divorce pushed him into a period of isolation. Despite those challenges, Gunnar slowly rebuilt himself through education. He enrolled at the University of Southern California and earned a bachelor's degree in policy, planning, and development. The shift away from acting was not easy, but the space it created allowed him to discover a passion for storytelling behind the camera. His early fame from Meet the Browns and his performance in Beautiful Ohio, 2006, became memories he carried rather than a pressure he chased. Now, Gunnar Washington is 27 years old and working as an independent producer, creating small but ambitious projects that reflect his own experiences of growth and resilience. His estimated net worth of around $200,000 comes largely from his childhood trust fund and occasional entertainment collaborations. And now that you've seen the real stories behind the smiles, which cast member's journey surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of Hollywood's hidden truths.